I'll tell you the thing that excites me most about it. There are a couple things, but the thing that comes to mind first is this whole notion of a microbook and this concept of consumption of content by the audience. So it used to be that you'd create the book and the book would end and you'd write the book, it would get glued together and there'd be covers on it and the paper would be delivered to you. Sometimes when we describe it, people say it's like choose your own adventure. It's actually not choose your own adventure. I mean, it's a little bit of that, but it's really choose your own consumption. Like, how do you want this content served to you? Do you want it in a PowerPoint deck? Do you want it in a podcast? Do you want it in a mini book? Like, I just love that each reader, and they may not read, each audience member can customize the way in which they consume the content. This is AI First with Adam and Andy, the show that takes you straight to the front lines of AI innovation in business. I'm Andy Sack, and alongside my co-host, Adam Brotman, each episode we bring you candid conversations with business leaders transforming their businesses with AI. No fluff, just real talk, actionable use cases, and insights for you. Greetings, everyone. Today's episode, we're super excited to talk to you about our living book. We published a book, Agents Inc., came out on July 15th, and there was a whole agentic living book concept that we want to share with you all. We think it's disruptive to the publishing industry, and we want to tell you about it, tell you where the idea came from and why it's important. So with that, Adam, how are you feeling about the living book and Vera Brown, our AI co-author?
I'm really excited for it as a living experiment. I mean, in the true sort of spirit of this living book, which is called Agents Inc. And I think the subtitle is How to Rebuild Your Company in the Age of AI, something like that, right? And so it's got a lot of the points that we like to make to business leaders that come to us for advice about, how do I think about my company over the next couple of years? AI agents become prominent. And we make a bunch of points in the book, but as we went to go write the book, we're like, let's spin up an agent, Vera Brown, we named it. And let's use an agent to help us write the book because it'll help us unlock some things that we couldn't have done without an agent. And that's sort of very meta because that's kind of the point we make in the book. But the reason I'm so excited about it is a living book really is an interesting idea that we should break down for our audience about what makes it a living book, how it's a good example of kind of some of the things that you could never do prior to AI agents. And I think we should sort of, step through.
Yeah. So Adam, why don't you just start? Let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
Start with what is a living book?
So this is the best way to think about it. And it actually helps you think about agents too, which is why we did it this way. Imagine you had a small staff, you're going to write a book, a nonfiction book. So you as an author are I got to do research and I got to write it and I got to get an editor and I got to, go get some people to interview possibly as part of my research. And you might even have a person that helps you administratively with everything to do with the book, right? So you have a little staff. And they become very familiar with the content of the book, the interviews, your thinking, your writing style. Before AI, that's how you'd write a book, a nonfiction book. You might be on an island, but most nonfiction writers have a little team. But imagine if you actually had somebody help you write the book. And then imagine when you publish the book, that team stayed on 24/7, full-time, available to you and your audience for whatever they want. Oh, you want to ask a question about the book? No problem. I got a staff that's waiting to answer your question. You want to read the book in a summary format or in an audio format? No problem. That staff will record a personal version of the book for you. The substance of the book has changed because the world's changing and there's updates in the topic of the book. No problem. The staff's going to keep up with that. They're going to talk to you, the author, and figure out what you think about these updates, and they're going to incorporate it into their thinking, and they're just rolling along as a staff. Well, agents do that for you. They're not human, but you basically can spin up an agent. The agent can have sub-agents, and everything I just said of you can effectively keep the book alive as long as you want using AI in a way that's actually affordable and feasible. And that's what we're talking about in a living book.
Do you want to screen share and show what?
Yeah.
The book website, if you want to go to it, is www.agentsincbook.com.
And right now, at the beginning of our launch, starting yesterday, we are offering a free custom mini book to kind of show off the power of what Vera does. In the future, if you see here, I'm going to click on this premium tab. we're going to have a premium. You're going to be able to unlock premium access to our agent, Vera, so that she can create mini books for you, actually make the book multimodal, create presentations, build a 90-day plan for you based on the contents of the book. So Vera can go to work for you when we have this unlockable premium version access to this agent. But in the meantime, the agent's alive. So here's a section called Meet Vera. Here she is, has access to the book. She says here, Vera Brown, AI co-author. In the free tier, I'm the living embodiment of the book. Ask me anything about it. And there's like some, explain the 50% rule. What does speed, order, aim mean, etc. You can ask anything here. Since I'm signed in, I can go to my chats and it saves all my previous chats. So you don't lose this. So you've got like a customized chatbot version of Vera, but then Vera can also in the premium version go to work for you on some level. And in the meantime, Vera is staying alive and, Agents Inc., it says here, the home of Vera Brown. And so this is a good example of what we mean by like the book lives on, the agent that helped us write the book lives on. And I think it's a paradigm shift for publishing. So you don't just end up with like a static bunch of glued together pages. You end up with this thing that, is interactive from the minute you publish it and stays up to date on everything and goes to work for us as the authors, but also for you as the reader.
So, Adam, what's the most exciting part of the living book for you?
Well, so far, the most exciting part of the living book is whenever you and I are interacting with an audience of any kind, it can be online, it could be when we're doing advisory stuff, speaking one-on-one with people. I love that we have an agent that embodies all this stuff that we can just say, on an impromptu basis or not, just go, oh, I'll have Vera make this thing for you. Oh, that's a good question. I'll have Vera do this for you. So it's like a coworker of ours.
Yeah, you have this virtual team that's there that you can give tasks to. I'll tell you the thing that excites me most about it. There are a couple things, but the thing that comes to mind first is this whole notion of a micro book and this concept of consumption of content by the audience. So it used to be that you'd create the book and the book would end and you'd write the book, it would get glued together and there'd be covers on it and the paper would be delivered to you. Sometimes when we describe it, people say it's like choose your own adventure. It's actually not choose your own adventure. I mean, it's a little bit of that, but it's really choose your own consumption. Like, how do you want this content served to you? Do you want it in a PowerPoint deck? Do you want it in a podcast? Do you want it in a mini book? Like, I just love that each reader, and they may not read, each audience member can customize the way in which they consume the content. And I think that coupled with the fact that there's this virtual team whose job it is to stay up to date on agents, those two things coupled with by the way, we did this in 3 months. And really, not only did we do the book, but the entire website, we had no designer. Like it basically was Adam and I'll give Adam credit. Like I may have taken the lead on the printed book. Adam took the lead on the website. So no designer, no engineer, the full site and the hosting, Adam really drove. Now we're working, I will let you all know, we're working with Brad Feld at Intensity Magic on a project to support and collaborate as it relates to Vera Brown. But really everything that you see has been done by the two of us. We've gotten some help from Rose, like we couldn't have done it without Rose and Maddie on our team. But I'd say 90% of the work plus has been done by you and I. And I think that is in 3 months. That is insane.
Yeah. Like it physically would not have been possible without the agent, which is a big point we make in the book, which is like when you start having a lot of unlocks, right? Speed, order, aim is a key theme of the book, which is like get moving to understand agents and start experimenting with agents. Order is think about where you're going to get the most juice for the squeeze. Don't just do random stuff. Like give some thoughts to where once you understand AI, you're moving fast on it, start thinking about what order you want to do your experiments because you can't do 100 at once. And ultimately you'll aim the AI at a big unlock for your business or your organization or your project. And that's kind of the spine of the book is speed, order, aim. And we go through a whole bunch of stuff, which you, Andy, want to give you a huge shout out. You really took the lead, like you said, on like taking the substance of the book and then pointing the book and the agent at these interviews that you conducted with a bunch of people who are actually using agents, and then able to wrap that in and deliver, which is a really cool book and book project and living book. I'll build on something you just said, though, that I think it's really important to talk about because you hit on it. Like, it's a choose your own consumption model. And I actually don't think that that's just kind of a neat, I'll call it, parlor trick for us in the age of agents. I'm starting to think that that is the future of how people are going to learn. So, and how people are going to read and consume things. Now, I watch my daughter and how she consumes things. It's just very different than how you and I do. And, your son is the same way, like where you basically have a world now that already is sort of choosing their own consumption model with YouTube versus Twitter versus LinkedIn versus reading books versus TV versus Netflix, like versus, iMessage, iPads. We live in a world now where people choose their own consumption model. And a lot of stuff gets distilled down through bite-sized videos and bite-sized tweets. And I know a lot of people lament that, including me and you at times. At times, it's like, it's too bad everything's being sort of distilled down to a bite-sized chunk. What's that going to do to our thinking and our critical thinking? And there's a legitimate philosophical discussions and practical discussions to have. But the reality is that's how people want to learn and consume right now. I actually think school and education is going to go in this direction. And so what's cool about our book to think about is this is true of nonfiction. If you're a nonfiction author and are going to write a book, is the goal of the book that people read your words and they somehow have some emotional experience with your words? Or is the goal of the book that they learn and internalize some key takeaways that you're trying to get them to understand? I would argue it should be the latter. It doesn't have to be. Some authors
Yeah, yeah.
for you and I, like when we wrote our first book published by Harvard, like the goal wasn't they need to feel our words. That's not like that's true with fiction, I believe, right? Like when you're trying to evoke a certain
Maybe
feel.
it may be true of fiction.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But like in nonfiction, I think a lot like school, a lot of it is like, how do you internalize, remember, consume information? And so what's cool is the book itself became like the long form content version of our outline and all of the notes from the interviews you conducted, right? So if you think about it, like we had an outline and interview raw notes, and we wanted to turn that into something that somebody could sort of like consume and internalize. And so we did that through a traditional book process, although we used Vera, like you said, so we could do it in 3 months instead of 20 months. But at the end of the day, now we have this long form of the key points we want people to learn from. And now it's like, how do you want to learn it? To your point, it's like, do you want to learn it by chatting with it? Do you want to read it? Do you want to watch a video? Do you want to listen to a podcast of it? Do you want a PowerPoint presentation of it? Like you choose. And I'll give you one last thought, and I'd love your reaction to this. I gave a talk about agents built on a lot of the topics in our book. And then I put a QR code up for anybody to go to the site. This is like a couple of days before the book launched a few days ago. And we let 50 people come on, and there was 100 people at the conference I was speaking at. 50 of them said, I want a mini book, which is an incredible hit rate. And then we started asking, what do you like about this or not? And I anecdotally asked one of the participants at this conference, like, what did you like about the mini book you got? And she said, it was 15 pages. It was perfect. Like, I want to read your book, but like right now I was so eager just to know the summary version of it. And I wanted to know how to apply to my life. And I wanted to have something I could consume in like 15, 20 minutes. And we delivered that. So that's a good example of, I think, the world we're going into.
This will date us. It's like the Monarch notes of our book.
Yeah.
Cliff
notes, right? Yeah.
Monarch or Cliff notes. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
I mean, there's so much to say. I mean, I can't.
Monarch, sorry, Andy, sorry to interrupt you. Monarch or Cliff Notes, to your point, personalized. Because
Personalized.
like when you got Cliff Notes, or you went, if you ever did this in college, I'm dating myself here, at UCLA, you could actually go buy notes from classes. Like it was not like a cheating thing. Like they, at the official UCLA store, like if you missed a class, you could go get the notes from that class for like $1 or something from the store. But they weren't personalized. It wasn't like, Adam, like, let me give you an example of like how this concept applies to your life. Imagine the Seattle Seahawks are doing this, or imagine, whatever, like personalizing the content, not just in the consumption factor, but even with examples that are like true to your life. And that's what, by the way, Vera does that in our mini book. Vera goes and researches the person that signs up for the mini book and says, oh, I looked you up on Google and I see like this is some stuff you've done in your life and this is what your LinkedIn said. So I'm going to customize even examples from the book that are relevant to your life. It's really remarkable.
Yeah. I want to make a couple of points to just build on what you're saying, because I mean, I feel like we could easily talk an hour. We're not going to, but we easily could. Point number one I want to make is what the living book represents is our own customer experience unlock that we discovered in the process of writing Agents Inc. Like, we've been in the applied AI consulting business for 3+ years. We've been heavy users of Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and Notebook and other tools. Lovable. It wasn't until we went deep on this project and had the idea of a living book. And the original idea, so number one is customer experience unlock. And my point about it is not only did we get to a customer experience unlock, is that the unlock was an iterative process. We didn't get to the idea of the microbook until 4 or 5 iterations in. Like, the original thing that got me excited about the living book was, God, as authors of a book on agents, the book's out of date as soon as you publish it. And because the space is moving so fast. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited to have an agent whose job it is to surf the news and Twitter, et cetera, for a content about agents and keep me as well as all the readers up to date. That really appealed to me. That was like the original idea. And then I had like an old school thought. I was like, oh, every 6 months we'll do a new printed book of Agents Inc. Now it's like in the process of iterating from that to
Right.
the book that you can talk to and will answer your questions. The idea of this living book and this team, as you talked about it, this digital team of Vera Brown agents, why we gave authorship rights to Vera Brown, our AI agent, as part of the book, is because it's all of those things and more. And it's really a customer experience unlock. And the fact that we arrived at it through iteration, it actually is so meta. That's what we talk about in the book. And it's the chef's kiss.
Yeah. I think you're right. Experience unlock is a great way to put it. Yeah, there was
Through iteration.
Yeah, iteration, because it was the iteration of you and I talking when you're like, yeah, like we could, Vera could just come up with these new editions, or at any moment, you can print an edition anytime you want. You can, in other words, it's real time, live, staying up to date. It really is an unlock that goes beyond, the original static thinking of it. And, by the way, I have a stack, you can't see it here. I always have one nonfiction book going at any given time. So, but my point is that when I read these books about what's going on, I wish they were alive. Because, you read a book and then you think about them.
I think the reason that, and we may do an episode with our former publisher, Scott, he was so excited about this. I think he had a hint that we were onto this, and I'm just thrilled. I can't wait. I'm sure we're going to learn with the audience and discover more about what the living book is, but I'm just thrilled that Vera Brown is along for the journey and is going to be listening and capturing this entire episode for all future readers. It's just so meta. With that, I hope you all enjoyed this mini episode, and I hope you all enjoyed the living book. Again, you can visit the Agents Inc. website at agentsinc.book.com. As you can tell, we're super excited about it. We think it's the next frontier of publishing, not just for books, but it affects journalism, it affects all content and content consumption. So we look forward to your feedback. We hope you enjoy your custom mini book. We thank you for listening to AI First with Adam and Andy. For more resources on how to become AI First, you can visit our website, forum3.com, download case studies, research briefings, executive summaries, and join our email list. We also invite you to connect with our AI First community, a curated hub and network for leaders turning AI hype into action. We truly believe you can't overinvest in your AI learning. Onward.